Hello and welcome to Amazon Web Services webinar, introducing AWS Import-Export Snowball. Before we begin, I'd like to walk the audience through a few items. On your screen, you can see a Q&A pod. Please submit your questions to our presenter and Q&A moderator at any time. We're going to address them in a live Q&A session in the end, as well as throughout the presentation. At the conclusion of today's presentation, there will be 3 poll questions proceeding live Q&A. Today's webinar is being recorded. We're going to send you a follow-up email with a URL to the recording once we verify the recording quality, as well as a link to the presentation deck. And again, welcome to today's webinar, introducing AWS Import-Export Snowball. Our presenter is Henry Jen, Senior Product Manager at AWS. Harry is currently based in Seattle Amazon Glacier team. He leads the product development of Glacier and has over 10 years of experience building large-scale cloud services. Harry is a graduate of Stanford University. Today with us, we also have Eric Duran. Eric is the Business Development Manager here at AWS. Eric will engage with you and answer your questions throughout this presentation while Henry presents. Well, Henry, welcome, and now pass the floor to you.
Thank you very much, Bowen. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Amazon webinar, where we want to share with you our exciting new service, the Amazon Snowball. So what I really want to do today is show you a real snowball, put that in front of you, have you touch it, have you lift it, have you open the flaps to see the connectors, to look at the cables, to look at the e-ink label and such, just to feel, because this is really an exciting moment for AWS. It's the first physical appliance that we've launched in the 10 years running the service. But because this is a webinar, I'm going to just show you this pretty picture. And while you look at the pretty picture, I just want to share a little bit of why we built this and how we think Snowball can help you, move large scale data into the cloud. So we designed Snowball as a self-contained storage unit that is meant to support petabyte scale data transport. Snowball is a shipping case in itself. It's a ruggedized case. It can support 8.5 G of impact. It comes with 50 terabytes of storage and a 10 gigabit network link. It's also just under 47 pounds, so a single person can lift it easily. And you can order multiple Snowballs to upload the data. The way you use Snowball is very, very simple. Traditionally, customers tell us that they have to upgrade network, buy additional internet bandwidth to ship large volumes of data into the cloud, or they, in the past, they could use the AWS Import-Export service where they will ship us a number of hard drives to import data. There was one time we had a large video customers. They had a 300 terabyte Hadoop cluster on premises. They ran lots of video analytics on that, user information, insights and all that stuff. And at one point they felt like, hey, we really want to add more nodes, and the local cluster is running out of capacity. So they decided to move to the cloud, and one of the hard challenge was, how do I move a 300 terabyte Hadoop cluster backup into the cloud? This was about 1.5 years ago. At that point, we only had import-export, the disk-based service. So they actually did it. They sent us 100 drives, and we completed the project with lots of sort of hand-holding and careful planning in about 1.5 months. It was doable, but then we realized that shipping large amounts of data, when we're talking about 50 terabytes and up, sometimes petabytes, it's really challenging because that particular customer did not have enough internet bandwidth. And the Hadoop migration was really a one-time thing. So it didn't make sense for them to buy additional bandwidth or buy a direct connect and all that. And on the other hand, they also had to buy 100 hard drives just to do that. They had to label them. They had to partition the HDFS files. They have to copy it. And that was just a lot of work. So after that, we really thought, hey, we want to make this simpler. How can we make this really so much simpler so that we can move a petabyte into the cloud in under a week. So that's when we came up with Snowball. So let me just show you how you would order Snowball and move data. It's very simple. You go to the Snowball console, create a job. You fill out your address. You tell us which S3 folders that you want to transport data to. And then when you're done, we'll ship you a device. Typically, it'll get there in a day or two. Once you get a Snowball device, you would connect it to your network. And then you also download a Snowball client, which will set up the appliance and set up all the credentials. And after that, you can use the Snowball client to copy data in a secure manner from your source to the appliance. The key thing to note that is all the data that lands on a Snowball device will be encrypted by the client. And after you're done copying your data, you unplug the device, a shipping label to AWS automatically shows up. And you see a little truck here where you can call UPS and they'll pick up the device. Once we receive your device, we will upload your data into your S3 buckets as you specified. Just simple as that. And I'll say this is very exciting because it's probably the only AWS service that doesn't offer any APIs, just because it's so much simpler. There's a user interface, there's a client to use, and there's no programming needed to use Snowball. We launched Snowball a couple weeks ago at re:Invent, and we got lots of excitement. Customers are super excited that we're helping them solve this very tough challenge of moving large volumes of data into the cloud. And we got two very interesting questions. I'll share with you what these customers told us. Number one was obviously, have you heard of networks? Right? Because on the surface, it does feel like this is going backwards a little bit. We're at the age of internet. We're at the age of internet of things, of mobile, of analytics, of social. Why are we going backwards, almost feels like, to using physical device to transport data? What turns out is if you're talking about transferring a couple gigabytes of data, maybe a terabyte of data over the internet, it's probably doable. However, when you start looking at the numbers for transporting 50 terabytes or up, or very large volumes in petabytes, we realize is that it's a very tough problem. The thing is bandwidth. I'm talking about the internet bandwidth. Think about your home connection that you pay an ISP. Bandwidth is not really growing very quickly, and it's growing much slower than the volume of storage, which is really exploding. You look at the media space. We're moving from HD to 4K to 8K to Ultra HD almost every 2 years. The content, resolution, and the size is doubling. It's like if you look at how quickly the TVs are getting bigger, that's how quickly content is growing in the media space. And you look at hard drives. Every two to 3 years, hard drives double in capacity, and the price typically drops by 50%. Those are all indicators of how quickly data is growing, how much more data is being stored, a lot of it in the cloud. However, we don't see such a trend in bandwidth. We don't see bandwidth price getting cut in half or bandwidth just doubling. So while many customers have a 10G, for example, internet connection in their local network, getting that data out from their network through the internet to the cloud is still challenging. So Snowball can help with that problem. So with a single Snowball, you get a 10G network connection and 50 terabytes of capacity. When you look at that, one way is to think, hey, if I do the math, I can transfer 50 terabytes of data through the 10G network in just under a day if I have sufficient read throughput. The other way to look at this is, hey, with Snowball, which costs just $200 plus shipping for a single device, I can get an almost instant network upgrade, a burst, from whatever I have to 10 gigabits, right, for the 10 days that I can use for just $200. That is really incredible because you look at existing network infrastructure, any customers that we've talked to, they said, hey, network upgrade is thousands of dollars, typically, tens of thousands of dollars, and it takes, months to procure, to do all the switches, to hire a third-party vendor to do the cabling and all that stuff, to put in the ports, and it's something that they wouldn't use if it's just going to be there for 10 days. So Snowball solved that problem. In addition to looking at this as a storage transfer device, it's also an almost instant network upgrade that you can get for a very low price. Customers are really excited about this because they really believe that Snowball is solving a big problem for them for transferring large amounts of data into the cloud. And they're particularly excited about using multiple Snowballs and scaling that horizontally. So we did the math. A single Snowball with 50 terabytes, you can transfer that in a day and ship 50 terabytes to the cloud in just under a week. If you deploy 5 Snowballs in parallel, it's as if you got an upgrade to 50 gigabits per second network, and you can ingest 250 terabytes of data in under a week. If we continue this math, and we scale up to 20 Snowballs running in parallel, what that gets you is 200 gigabits of network, and then you can send 1 petabyte of data to the cloud in just under a week, end to end. That is pretty phenomenal. That's something that customers have told us that they've never thought about was possible before. We talked to a lot of media customers, a lot of studios. Some of them are in remote locations, shooting scenes on islands and stuff like that. They just don't have internet connection. But every day, with their high-density camera, they shoot lots of high-resolution images. And over a week, they collect, over 50 terabytes of data that they want to send to the cloud for processing. Now we have a solution for them. They can use Snowball, no need to upgrade the network, and then just send us the data and do the processing on our end. Another question we got that was also very popular is, can I drop the device? Our answer is no, please don't. It's very tempting. And I have to tell you that we ran many, many drop tests from all angles of the Snowball, all the combinations, on the side, on the corners, anything you can imagine. We ran many, many tests. And the appliance held up really well. We have a video on, I think on YouTube that you can look at, where we dropped a Snowball from 6 feet high. It bounced a couple of times and held up well. What we really designed there is that we want the Snowball to be ruggedized, to be its own case, so that there's no need for a shipping label. There's an e-ink label, which is an Amazon Kindle, that intelligently displays the shipping address of your site when it's being delivered to you. When it arrives on site, the label automatically changes to a configuration panel which you can use to set up the device. And last but not least, when you send us the device back, the e-ink label also automatically updates to the Amazon address. So it's very intelligent. So we've talked about the speed at which you can transfer data to a Snowball. So let's look at some numbers. Just put that into context. There's a little bit of a... Okay, so we ran some tests for a 50 terabyte data folder. You can send that to Snowball in under a day. And let's say it takes about 2 days for the device to arrive on site. It takes maybe half a day to set it up, and then 2 days to ship it back to us. And then it takes another day for Amazon to load that data into your S3 bucket. So end to end, this is taking just under a week to send 50 terabytes of data. We compared that to a number of traditional internet-based models. And what we found is that for customers who has a 150 megabit connection, this is going to take about 6 weeks. And for customers who have a internet connection of 1 gigabit per second, where they can dedicate 50% utilization, this is going to take 9 days. So just a little bit faster than Snowball. It's a little bit longer than Snowball. However, when you look at scaling that up to 250 terabytes of data, then you're looking at a month and a half to transfer that amount of data, even if you have a 1 GB connection at 50% utilization. So we really believe that the larger the volume that you want to send to the cloud, the more applicable and more attractive that Snowball is going to be. Ultimately, we really believe this is going to solve the petabyte scale ingest problem for you. Another question that customers typically ask is how we secure data that's transported to Snowball. At Amazon Web Services, we offer a number of storage services for file systems, for object storage, for block storage, for Hadoop clusters and things like that. And we take security very, very seriously. But this time it's a little different because we are looking at a physical device, which is really the first time for us. So in terms of security, there are really two things we did. Number one is the physical security. So when we designed the case, we designed internals of the device. We made temper-resistant casing and the screws and the cabling, so that we can really protect the device from a physical perspective. And the second thing is that we use encryption extensively throughout the entire process. We use 250-bit, 56-bit encryption, and we ensure that all data that lands on the Snowball is encrypted. This is why we require that you use a Snowball client to transfer the data, because it encrypts the data before it lands, instead of letting you just copy data directly unencrypted to the Snowball device. The next thing we did is that we ensure that the encryption keys never land on the device. So the keys are managed by the Amazon KMS, which is our key management service, and the keys are always external to the Snowball. This means that if the device is lost, is shipped to the wrong guy, is stolen, someone takes a drive out of it, no one will be able to breach your data. And last but not least, every time we receive a device and after we upload your data, we put each Snowball device through a rigorous erasure process that adheres to the NIST media sanitization standard. This way we ensure that your data is wiped clean and no one can discover that at any time. Snowball right now supports import into S3, Amazon S3, and it's available in 2 regions, US East 1, Virginia, as well as US West 2, Oregon. We really believe that this is just the beginning of our adventure in solving large data ingest challenges. And we believe that customers can use the S3-enabled ingest to fan out data to a number of AWS storage services as necessary. So for example, after you ingest data into S3, you can use the lifecycle capability to tier that into Amazon Glacier. A lot of media customers find that really attractive because now they can move large media assets, archive them in Glacier for very low price. Similarly, customers who are looking to migrate Hadoop clusters or databases, RDS databases or Redshift data warehouses, they can now use Snowball, ship, for example, a 50 terabyte data warehouse backup into S3, then rehydrate that database or data warehouse onto one of our services, and then you can scale up using a number of our compute services. So S3 is really the landing zone for all of your large data, and you can fan out to a number of our storage services. So let's talk about cost a little bit. So Snowball is it's very inexpensive. It's $200 per job. A job here is really the ability to use a single Snowball for 10 days on site. When we count the 10 days, we don't count the partial days when the Snowball lands on your site, as well as the partial day that you ship the device back to us. You get 10 full days to use the device. And sometimes you want to take your time and keep the device a little longer because you're transferring data for a couple more days. It's no problem. It costs 15 days extra to keep the device. Also very inexpensive. In addition to the job cost and the per day, charge, standard Amazon Web Services network charges apply. So for example, transferring data into the S3 buckets is free. And if you desire to transfer data out through Snowball, it's going to cost 3 cents per gigabyte. So let me walk through a couple of examples just to show you how this pricing works out. So to start with, if you have 40 terabytes of data you want to transfer to us on using one Snowball, you have a pretty fast local connection and it took 2 days to complete. So for that job, it's going to cost you $200 plus shipping because you're well under the 10 included days for on-site usage. Next example. If you desire to transfer 30 terabytes through one Snowball device, and then it took 12 days to complete the on-site data load, what you'll be looking at is $200 for the base job, and then you also incurred 2 extra days at $15 a day. So you'll be looking at $230 plus shipping. Also very inexpensive. You'll have customers that have already ordered multiple Snowballs so that they can run things in parallel. A lot of times this is because they have data that's staged on multiple storage servers. They want to expedite the process. You can do that very easily by ordering multiple devices. So in this case, if you were to transfer 140 terabytes, you probably want 3 Snowballs because each Snowball is 50 terabytes in capacity. And let's say you used, it took 8 days on site to complete that. So you'd be looking at 3 times 200, which is $600 to ship that amount of data. And the last example is for data transfer out. So for example, you want to export 30 terabytes through one Snowball, and it took 8 days. And what you're looking at is $200 for the base job price, and then the data transfer out fee at 3 cents per gigabyte times 30 terabytes. So you're looking at just over $1,000 plus shipping. So now that we have looked at Snowball from the pricing perspective, from the use case perspective, and the security perspective, I want to walk you through a little bit more in detail so you can really get started with using the device. Again, I want to highlight that Snowball is super easy to use. There's no programming skills required, and then you interact with Snowball by starting with creating a job in the console. So let me walk you through that. So in the Snowball console, you'll create a job, and we would like you to tell us a little bit about your shipping address and the shipping mode. By default, we offer 2-day shipping, and there's also the option to do a 1-day shipping. Next, you'll give us information about the job name. In this case, it's called import photos, and the destination, where you want the data to land in AWS. Right now, the default location is S3. We expect to have more locations, more services supporting Snowball natively in the future. You would also tell us the region that you want the S3 bucket to be. In this case, it's Virginia, and you'll tell us the bucket name. Remember that you can also create multiple buckets in case you have multiple on-premises folders that you want to map to multiple buckets in S3. That can be done very easily. Once you configure multiple buckets, the Snowball will just be represented as if it's a bunch of folders. The next step is configuring security. So first of all, you need to give the Snowball permissions to access your S3 bucket. It is really impersonating Snowball with one of your roles. So what we recommend is, if you plan to use Snowball, multiple times, just create a role with proper permissions and use that designated role for all the Snowball jobs. The next step is setting up encryption, which is very important. Remember, Snowball supports the Amazon Web Services key management service. So you can choose a default key from KMS, or you can create a new key that is stored in KMS. So what we do is the Snowball client is going to use that key to encrypt the data that lands on the Snowball. And when we receive your device, we're going to use the same key to decrypt the data before we write that content into your S3 bucket. The last step of creating a job is setting up notifications. So this is done through Amazon's SNS notification service. You would tell us your email address, where we'll send notifications to, and a topic. And then you can choose from a number of notification steps. If you scan the list, we have things like when the device was shipped, when the device landed at your site, when the transfer began, and when the transfer completed. If you just take a look at the list, it's really starting to feel like, hey, this is almost like very similar to the retail shipping, where you can get all types of tracking at a very detailed level. So now that you have created the job, you get this confirmation page, and while you wait for the device to arrive, maybe it's going to take like a day or two, what you can do at this point is download the Snowball client. This is at the link, the blue link on the top. And then the client does two things. Number one is, it can help you encrypt and transfer the data. But even before the Snowball arrives, you can already use a client to test your transfer speed by doing a sampling of the data source. So sometimes, customers are copying data from, a variety of storage servers on premises. Some are faster, some are slower, some have, lots of little files that tends to be a little bit slower. So it's a great idea to run the client against your source or multiple sources to figure out what type of real throughput I can get. So you get an idea of how long it's going to take. Because every Snowball device comes with 10 days of use, you want to make sure that I am planned and I'm ready to transfer data as soon as the device lands. Right? You don't want to be doing this perf testing after the device lands and discovering that, oh, this folder has a bunch of tiny files. It's going to take a long time to write to Snowball. You want to know all of that beforehand. This is a little bit of preparation that we advise you to do so that when the device arrives, you can get the transfer started immediately. So 2 days just went by, and the Snowball landed at your door. You pick it up. It's not very heavy, and then you see immediately that there's a shipping label, which is on the left, which is your address. And once you plug the device in, the label automatically changes to a network configuration panel. So Snowball supports two types of network interface: RJ45 and SFP+. If you have a DHCP configured in your network, it's very easy. You can just automatically grab an address, and Snowball can recognize that. Otherwise, you can manually set up the network interface. And then after Snowball is connected to your device, to your network, and powered on, the next step is to go back to the console and take a look at your job details. When you look at the job details, you would also download a manifest. The manifest is really the description of the job. It's going to include all the folders that you created for your S3 where you want to load data to. It's going to have the encryption key, which is going to be used, and it's going to have a little bit of metadata that describes your job. So once you've downloaded that metadata file, you go to a console. This can be on Windows, this can be on Mac, this can be on Linux. You go to a terminal, and then you run this Snowball command to activate the Snowball. So the command is really simple. It just starts the Snowball at this IP address, and it points to the manifest. This is the step where the manifest and the Snowball sort of does a handshake. You also notice that there's a 29-character unlock code, which is also something you download from the manifest that you pass to this command, Once the unlock code is passed to the Snowball, it does this identification and a handshake, and now the Snowball is ready for use. Do note that the manifest is never stored on the Snowball device. This is in the same spirit that we never put the keys, the encryption keys on the Snowball for security. Right? What this ensures is someone can steal your Snowball on the way to you or back, but it's not going to have that activation information. This is probably the most complex command you'll have to issue while using Snowball. And once you're done with that, this from the console, you can issue the Snowball Copy command. In this case, we are recursively copying your log/April folder from one of your, for example, storage locations to an S3 bucket. Do note that this is a mapping of the S3 bucket that you created in the job. So Snowball gives you a list of all the folders of all the S3 buckets that you've created, and you can choose to send data to any one of these buckets that you have created. So a day goes by, you send 50 terabytes of data onto the Snowball, and all the copies succeeded, and now you're ready to ship the device back to us. All you have to do is shut down the device, you unplug the power, and as soon as you do that, the panel which used to display the IP address now automatically switches to the shipping address of Amazon. So this is also something we made really simple. There's nothing, you don't really have to think about it. We just automatically know where this needs to go to. And then at this stage, you can call UPS to pick up the device. After 2 days, the device will land in our location. And then when we receive the device, we're going to start immediately with importing your data into the respective S3 buckets that you designated. So you can track the progress of this import process on the console. And then you typically see that the number of objects transferred from the Snowball to your S3 bucket, the success rate, anything that failed, the total number of bytes that's transferred. And typically within a day or so, we'll process a Snowball, and you'll see a status report. And with this, you can confirm that all of your data that has been loaded onto the Snowball is now securely stored in Amazon S3. At this point, you can feel confident to maybe wipe out the data that you store locally because you've successfully completed your migration. So with that, I want to thank everyone for participating in today's webinar. We'd like to move on to the Q&A session. And what I would like to encourage is for you to fill out the poll on the left, on the 3 questions, super easy. And we're open to any questions. Just one more thing before we get into Q&A. I think one thing that I typically draw analogy to for Snowball is this shipping company. It's called PODS. So what PODS does is that they ship. For those of you who moved around, you switch apartments, you moved houses. Moving is a big churn, right? So what PODS does is they ship you this container, a physical container. They park it in front of your door, and then you can move all your stuff at your pace. And when you're done, they pick it up for you. So Snowball is really just like the pods for moving data into the cloud. It's super easy. We deliver the device to you. You can take your time. You can put all your furniture in there from multiple houses at your pace. And then when you're done, you just call UPS and we pick up the device. There's no need for you to purchase anything, upgrade your network, or buy devices. So we really hope that this is going to be helpful to you to migrating petabytes of data into cloud and grow your business very quickly. So with that, let's get started with the Q&A. I'm just taking a look at the questions right now.
Yeah, so we have a question from Ben Russell. When using Snowball, is the import capability to Amazon limited to a single AWS user account, or is it possible to use the solution to migrate multiple customer data sets to different AWS accounts? So today in the console, when you create the manifest, it is limited to showing the buckets that are associated with that account. So you would have to create that request for your customer through their AWS account. We are looking at this as a common request, and it's something we're looking at in the future, being able to support multiple customers. That is supported today on the current import-export disk. It's just something we'll need to add to Snowball. The next question from Christopher Keene is, does the Snowball client check to make sure all data is written correctly to the device? So the client does not perform a checksum against the data that is written on the device. There is a list command available where you can view what data has been copied, but it is not an automatic check. It's something you would perform. Once the device is received, we do perform a checksum against the data to ensure that all data has been transferred from the device to S3 properly. Next question. Is Snowball available for our clients in Brazil? It is not currently available in Brazil today. Today, Snowball is only available for import into U.S. East and U.S. West Oregon, and is only available for shipping to and from locations in the United States. This is also a very common request and something that we are evaluating.
Yeah, I just want to add that, we talked to a lot of international customers, and we're based in the U.S., so internet is still reasonably fast in most locations, but we've talked to many customers in China, in India, where network is very, very expensive. Like in China, I think a 1 gigabit per second link is $8,000 a month, right? So we definitely recognize that the challenge for moving large amounts of data, the network sort of limitation in the world is large. So we're looking at plans to expanding Snowball to multiple worldwide regions.
Also a question we've gotten a few times here, is there 1 gig connectivity available on the Snowball? Yes, there is a 1 gig copper NIC also available on the Snowball. Let's see, another one here. Will manifest files and import jobs still need to be created manually, or is this all taken care of by the Snowball client?
So, yeah, so I think this is probably comparing with the manifest file for the previous AWS import-export process. So right now, the manifest is created in the console. Remember the screens that we walked through. You tell us the address, you tell us the permissions, the key. You basically mount a set of S3 folders, S3 buckets as folders for Snowball, and we generate a manifest for you. And then once you create a job, you can download the manifest and then do a handshake with a Snowball to set it up. And the another thing which is a big difference, because I also was product manager for import-export before, the shipping label is so much easier right now. Before we had customers, we gave them instructions to say, hey, here's the shipping label. Make sure you attach this label on your box, and do that right and all that stuff. There's a barcode and all that. None of that is required anymore because all the labeling, all the identification is now intelligent. It's managed by the e-ink label, which is context aware. It knows where to send the Snowball to you, and also when to send it back to the appropriate Amazon location. So a lot of this sort of physical logistics for shipping, packaging, and labeling has been, we think has been removed to a large extent, so that there's really very little you need to manage there.
The next question, can data be transferred to multiple S3 buckets in one Snowball? Yes, it can be. You can specify that in the manifest. The only real limitation would be they have to be buckets that, again, are associated with that account.
Mm-hmm.
There's another question. When Snowball is connected to our network, does it need outbound internet access? It does not. The Snowball has been designed to be able to be leveraged in air-gapped data centers, so no external connectivity is required to be able to complete the data transfer to the Snowball device. What was your example?
The question is, can you elaborate more on example 4? So example 4. So example 4 is 30 terabytes of data exported to one Snowball, and this is a cost exercise. So the thing to look at here is this is an export case, which is something we'll support shortly. The base price for ordering a device is $200, and when you move 30 terabytes of data out of AWS, it's going to cost 3 cents per gigabyte. So this is in line with our data egress pricing. So you do 30 terabytes times 3 cents per GB plus the $200. It adds up to $1,100 plus shipping.
Another question regarding connectivity. So there is a 10 gig SFP plus port available on the Snowball, as well as a 1 gig copper port available on the Snowball. So here's a question comparing Snowball to 10 gig direct connect. This is a great question. So really it depends on the use case. So there is no, reading the question here, there is no cost associated with data import into S3, both with beyond the transport mechanism itself. So both either there's the cost of the direct connect or there's the cost of the Snowball. We have customers that are leveraging both today. It's actually quite common. Snowball is very effective for large batch transfers where you don't necessarily want to utilize all of the available bandwidth on your direct connect. That might be disturbing other ongoing network traffic.
Yeah, that's a great question, by the way. So I just want to elaborate a little bit of how customers are thinking about direct connect and Snowball. So we don't think that Snowball is replacing direct connect. Those are really two options that AWS offers to help customers get better connected to our cloud. So a lot of customers run direct connect because first of all they want a dedicated connection for reliable performance. A lot of customers are doing time-critical backups into the cloud from their site. They typically also run VPC so that they have a virtual integrated enterprise IT environment, which AWS Cloud is part of. So a lot of customers use direct connect in that sense, and they have pretty high utilization for processing on that link already. So when they look at a one-time migration, for example, the example I talked about, moving 300 terabytes of Hadoop cluster, right? Doing that in very quickly is going to disrupt the available bandwidth. So those customers will typically choose to continue with the direct connect and then use Snowball for that one-time thing. Then there are also customers who ask us, hey, I plan to send 50 terabytes every week, right? Should I set up a direct connect, maybe a 1G link, or should I use Snowball? I think this is really a question of the latency sort of tolerance that you have. So some customers, for example, they can handle the data landing in AWS in a couple of days because it's not time critical. They're just waiting for the batches to land, and then they're going to do some type of big data analytics. One example is a bunch of pharmaceutical companies are doing distributed research for genomic sequencing partnering with a number of universities and laboratories in the country. So every week they get double-digit terabytes of semi-processed data. That's not time sensitive, and then they just wait for all the data to land and do a batch processing. So in that case, Snowball is preferred because you're talking about $200 to load plus shipping to load 50 terabytes, right? And there's no infrastructure investments required. However, if you want that 50 terabytes to land in AWS, within a couple of hours, and that you want to do, real-time processing, for example, if you're doing like, financial transactions, doing analytics for real-time data, then you should also look at using Direct Connect, maybe setting it up, right? Because it's really the latency sensitivity that dictates, whether you use Direct Connect or Snowball. And they can be used in parallel for a variety of use cases.
So another security-oriented question. During the inload process, do any Amazon employees have access to or know what my data is? No. During the inload process, the import process, effectively the device is received at a receiving facility. It is transported by an Amazon employee to one of our data centers, or then is connected to an ingest station, and the entire process beyond that is automated. There is no human intervention or ability for someone at Amazon to view your data.
Mm-hmm. Great.
A number of questions again about international shipping. So again, I'll reiterate, the Snowball is available today in the U.S. and only for shipping to and from locations in the U.S. But we are working on the international availability. Another great question, are there professional services available for Snowball, or is this all do-it-yourself? We do have professional services staff trained and can support Snowball as a professional services engagement.
Yeah, I think just to add on to that, we designed Snowball to be really, really simple, right? You look at this, it's a 47-pound device. One person can lift it up. We use just standard connections, power cables, and and all that. It's really meant to be extremely simple so that anybody can use it. Whether you are a photographer, you're a movie creative fan that you want to start using the cloud for large data loads, or you are in a large enterprise organization, you want to move financial data, healthcare data, and all that stuff. We want Snowball to work for all of these use cases. The bottom line is this is a service that we hope to accelerate to help customers move large amounts of data into the cloud. We do recognize that professional services can come in really handy, because some of our customers have already talked about, hey, we want this to be in a subscription model, right? Because we plan to do this twice a month, and we have this dedicated process. Can you guys help us with that? So we recognize that, and I think we'll get those integrated and provided to you.
Here's a great question. What are the pros and cons of Snowball versus the import-export disk service? Really, it would be ease of use for Snowball. It's a much more automated process. If you have very large data sets that you need to move in a short amount of time, Snowball is an ideal fit for that. Mm-hmm. Import-export disk can still work very well for smaller data sets. Also, if you already have the drives available for importing and for transfer, a key difference between Snowball and import-export disk is with import-export disk, there's the burden that you need to purchase your own hard drives and have those drives available for shipping. With Snowball, Amazon is providing that equipment to you.
Yeah, that's a great question and a great call out. I think just from a pricing perspective, import-export disk, the base job costs $80 for us to process the device, and then you include shipping and the data upload, the data loading sort of cost. It's probably about like $100 per job, right? And then we support just standard hard drives. You can do a couple of terabytes. So I would suggest that if you're looking at doing more than 10 terabytes or 3 devices, you should probably consider using Snowball, because you just get a very low price. You can load up to 50 terabytes, and you don't have to buy hard drives. You don't have to deal with the shipping labels, and you don't have to deal with partitioning the data. Right? It's really easy to use Snowball. So that would be our recommendation.
I'm also receiving a number of questions regarding estimates for number of Snowballs needed, how long data transfer times would take, and the like. So my guidance there would be, we are working on adding a publicly available calculator to enable you to determine how many snowballs and data transfer speed estimates and like. But something else that you can do now is you are able to download the Snowball Client. It is publicly available, again, on our website. Once you've downloaded that client, in the documentation, there's some guidance on how to run the Snowball Client in test mode. You can now simulate what a transfer would be. Effectively, what the test mode commands will do is they will simulate a transfer to a Snowball device through the client without needing to have actually a Snowball device present. So while it won't give you 100% accuracy of what that data transfer would take, because there's both the network segment from the source of data to the host, and that's really the data throughput that that's the throughput numbers we're going to be able to give you from the client. It doesn't take into account the throughput numbers from the host to the Snowball device. But for those of you that are asking, that client and that test mode will give you a very reasonable way to determine a good number for throughput. Also have a couple of questions. I've had a few on EBS, one for EFS, some for database services of supporting import directly into those services. So, we are evaluating all of those requests. We've received them from a number of customers, and we will be adding additional import options in the future, but there's no timelines to share for that now.
So we have another question, which is, would 5 petabytes require 100 snowballs, or is my math incorrect? So your math is correct. You can order 100 snowballs running in parallel, and you can import 5 petabytes, in under a week end to end. I think the thing to really be careful with is that to do a test on your read throughput, just to make sure you have sufficient read throughput, because we've seen customers, doing this type of migration from, little, storage filers and, slightly older, storage arrays that just can't push data fast enough to multiple snowballs, right? So then like, I ordered too many snowballs. I just can't saturate that. So I think, Eric's recommendation was really helpful there. Take the client, do a read test. It's like running a bandwidth test. And then you do the sizing, then you figure out, how many do I need, what's the expected end-to-end times that I'll see. But the gist is, if you have sufficient bandwidth, you can do 1 petabyte with 20 snowballs, or 5 petabytes with 100 snowballs in under a week. That's very exciting.
There's a question here, and make sure that we did bring this up, but I want to make sure it was called out. What file systems does the client support? So the client supports Linux, Windows, or Macintosh-based file systems.
Yeah, one thing I do want to call out here is just some for awareness that we do implement a file system on Snowball, but we explicitly chose not to expose that directly to customers. And there's a good reason for that. It's for security. We really want to protect your data, and we want to ensure that anything you write to the device is encrypted, right? Had we exposed a file system to you directly, then we can't really guarantee that, which is why we provide you this Snowball client and require encryption for all the data at rest, and we manage the keys for you. So that's a little thing to be aware of. Great. I think we've covered most of the questions, and just want to take a minute to thank everyone for taking your time today to learn about Snowball, to interact with us, and I think this is a really exciting time for AWS. It's the first physical device that we shipped. We're really looking forward to your feedback. Tell us how you plan to use that, and I think a lot of your feedback has already been very valuable in international expansion and pro services and all that stuff. So we'll take note of that, and we really appreciate your time today, and thank you very much for attending the Snowball webinar. Have a great day.